Hi everyone, and welcome to our 10th and final video of Financial Freedom Making a Millionaire. It has been quite the journey and we've covered a lot of ground together. It may have felt like you were drinking from a fire hose at times, but you've done a really great job in making it to this point. The topics that we've covered together are the most critical components and the foundational building blocks of personal finance. Some of them may have felt second nature to you, while others may have been brand new. While there are dozens of more topics that we could cover together, some of which I'll mention at the end of this video as potential next steps on your financial journey, my purpose in this course was to cut through the complexity, to condense the material into a video series that wouldn't take you months to complete, and to be laser focused on the handful of topics that will have the greatest impact on paving your way to financial freedom and peace of mind. I promise that by adopting the mindset that we've talked about and by implementing the strategies that we've discussed together, you will succeed. You will make immediate and significant progress towards the financial future you've dreamed of. Now remember that success in personal finance is a journey. It's a mindset and it doesn't look the same for everyone. As you combine some money management savvy by following these principles and strategies with your own hard work and effort, the goals that you outlined at the very beginning of this course will absolutely become a reality. So, as we come to the end of this video series, let's take a few minutes to reflect back and review what we've learned. Following our welcome and overview in video number 1, in video 2 we talked about getting started by knowing your why. Remember that story about the tractor and plowing straight lines? By fixing your sight on a goal or objective off in the distance and continually staying focused on that goal, you're much more likely to follow a straight path leading to your end destination. It's when we get distracted looking at the ground right in front of us or unnecessarily comparing ourselves to others that it's easy to get thrown off course. Remember your video 1 goal sheet and keep your eyes focused on the prize, those short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals that you set. And as you accomplish those goals one at a time, replace them with new SMART goals. Goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. In video 3, we jumped right into establishing a mindset for success by discussing the 5 key principles. The first principle is to live within your means, to spend less than you make, and to invest the difference. Remember that enjoying financial security and peace of mind is actually much more dependent on effectively managing the resources you have than it is on maximizing your income and making $1 million a year. I've known plenty of wonderful people who have lived comfortable lives and have been able to retire without ever making 6-figure incomes. In contrast, I've also known plenty of people who have had very comfortable incomes but have still ended up in financial ruin because they never learned to manage the resources they had. It all starts by living within your means and spending less than you make, which then opens the opportunity to start investing and putting your money to work for you. The next principle is to avoid debt and to strive to become debt-free. Debt has often been described as living in bondage, and it can be a cruel taskmaster. In fact, J. Reuben Clark once eloquently explained debt and interest in this way. He said, "Interest never sleeps, gets sick, or dies. It works on Sundays and holidays and never takes a vacation. Once you're in debt, interest is your companion every minute of the day and night. And whenever you get in its way or fail to meet its demands, it crushes you." Now, of course, it might be necessary to use debt from time to time. For example, to buy a house or to fund an education. But you should always avoid consumer debt and credit card debt, which is really just a shiny trap enticing you to live beyond your means. Instead, your goal should be to put yourself on a path to becoming debt-free and liberating yourself from that burden. The next principle is to have appropriate safeguards in place and to save for a rainy day. Unfortunately, sometimes life just happens, and you may have a need to fall back on a safety net. And if and when that happens, you'll count yourself fortunate that that safety net was there. This includes having adequate health, auto, homeowners, and even life insurance. It also means keeping a 6-month emergency fund in a liquid savings account that you have easy access to. By putting these safeguards in place, the unfortunate bumps and hurdles of life won't turn into financial crises that place even greater stress on you and your family. The fourth principle is to avoid comparison and to learn to carefully distinguish between wants and needs. Remember the story of the man who appeared to be enormously wealthy on the outside, but in reality he was living on a very shaky financial foundation that could crumble at any moment. From this story, we learned 2 important lessons. First, to avoid comparing ourselves to others. And second, we learned that the crushing stress of debt and keeping appearances is actually more burdensome than simply living within your means to begin with. I then shared a fun story about the amazing truck I drove all through high school. Remember that beauty? While this truck was far from everything that I wanted, at the time it was actually everything that I needed. Learning to carefully distinguish between wants and needs will help you to be wise in the financial decisions that you make and will put you on a path to achieving financial freedom. The final principle of video 3 is to be honest in all that you do and to be generous with those in need. I promise that even if you could make all the money in the world, nothing would likely bring you greater satisfaction and joy in life than simply helping those around you. I've always admired those who have been financially successful in life and have then pledged to use their means to make the world around them a better place. So, as you put these principles into practice and begin to experience some financial freedom yourself, don't forget that the greatest happiness in life will come through helping those around you. Well, there's our summary of video 3. Let's move on to video 4. In video 4, things got really practical as we talked about budgeting and how to make smart money management decisions. We talked about how a budget will help you define and reach your goals, how it will help you stay in the green and make wise financial decisions, and how it will also help you build your financial future while enjoying the things that you prioritize now. Importantly, we introduced the floss method for budgeting. This method has literally changed people's lives while transforming their financial position. The reason the floss method is so successful is because it simplifies the budgeting process and makes it sustainable for the long run. Rather than creating dozens of categories, accounts, envelopes to meticulously track each and every purchase, the floss method uses a macro budgeting approach that divides all your spending into 3 simple categories: fixed and leveraged, operating, and savings and slush. Your fixed and leveraged spending are the expenses you encounter every month that you can't change or get out of without consequence. These are fixed costs that are not variable, or in other words, they don't change month to month. Operating costs encompass all of the other expenses and spending that you experience to live. These are costs that are variable. They're not necessarily locked in, and you're not obligated to spend them month over month. In other words, these are costs where you're in the driver's seat. Finally, savings and slush represent the money you're paying yourself each and every month, in addition to any money that might be left over if you did a good job managing your operating costs. Remember, just as important as it is to pay your bills, it's critical that you pay yourself. And paying yourself is one of the first things that you should do when you get that paycheck. This is what paves the way for you to invest and to begin putting your money to work for you while building some degree of financial wealth. After introducing the floss method of budgeting, in video number 5, we talked about the important 70-20-10 rule, which ultimately allows you to assign numbers to your budget. With this rule, you spend 70% of your after-tax income on living expenses, or in other words, the fixed and leveraged and operating costs from the floss method. You then save 20% of your income, and the remaining 10% is used for giving and to pay down debt. This 70-20-10 rule will guide the allocation of your income, and from a practical perspective, it will set your budget, just like we walked through together with Kristen and Brandon. By following this rule, you'll put yourself on a path to saving while living as you march towards your financial goals. In video 6, this is where we pulled out the power of math. And remember, math doesn't lie. We talked about the time value of money and the power of compounding returns. You'll recall that the concept of time value of money is actually very simple. $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. And when you combine that with the principle of compounding returns, you have an extremely powerful formula. $1 wisely invested today can grow into a significant amount years down the road. I'm sure you'll remember the example of Eric, Amy, and Paul. Eric started saving $500 a month when he first began working at age 25 and consistently saved each month until he reached retirement 40 years later. Amy was also a diligent saver, but she started saving 10 years later than Eric. Unfortunately, Paul procrastinated and didn't start saving until he was 45 years old, only 20 years before his desired retirement age. Well, the power of compounding became very clear in this example when Eric retired with more than $1.75 million. Amy, while she had diligently saved for 30 years, was still more than $1 million behind Eric. And Paul, unfortunately, he had to postpone retirement because he simply hadn't saved enough. This example became more telling when I showed you that even if Amy would have doubled her savings, and even if Paul would have tripled his savings amount, it wouldn't have been enough to catch up to Eric's early start. So the takeaway message is clear. Start saving and investing today so you can harness the power of compounding. Later in video 8, which we'll review in just a minute, we learned that if Eric would have invested in a tax-advantaged retirement account, and if he would have contributed the maximum, roughly $20,000 allowed annually, he would have retired with over $5.5 million. Now, while the specific amount of money that you invest each month is important and it's interesting, and you can also use the video 6 worksheet to see how your specific savings will accumulate over time. The most important takeaway here is to understand the power of time and compounding. The math speaks for itself, and it tells us that starting early and foregoing a few of those extra wants today in order to invest and save for your future will pay off big time down the road. Now, let's move on to video 7. In this video, we discussed 3 powerful investing concepts that should, in part, form the foundation of your investing approach. The first of these concepts is the concept of risk and reward. In this video, we learned that all investments have risk. When you invest, you're purchasing an asset with an expectation that your investment will grow in value and eventually return more cash to you than what was originally invested. And the reward or return on your investment should correspond to the level of risk. We explained this graphic, which illustrates a variety of investment alternatives, along with a general sense of their relative risk. Certain types of investments, like money market funds and CDs, have very low risk, but also generate low returns. Other types of investments, like owning a business, have the potential for high returns, but also come at a high risk. In between, there are many investment options, bonds, stocks, real estate, that are common components of an individual investing strategy. Understanding this risk-reward diagram and where you fall on it is important because it will help drive the investment decisions you make. What the right amount of risk is for you will likely depend on a number of factors, including your risk appetite, your financial situation, and your desired investing timeline. The second investing concept we introduced was diversification. Diversification is a strategy that enables you to reduce portfolio risk while maintaining relative returns by spreading your money out across a variety of investments. Put more simply, when you diversify your investments, you avoid putting all your eggs in one basket. To illustrate this, we talked about an example of a New York City street vendor who sells both sunglasses and umbrellas. And while it may seem a little odd at first, it's actually a brilliant business strategy, because whether it's sunny or rainy, this street vendor has a product ready to sell. They've effectively diversified their business. Similarly, you'll want to diversify your investments, and the most common example of this is investing in stocks. Rather than going through all the brain damage and risk of trying to pick the next Amazon, invest in broad market index funds and ETFs that will ensure your investments are well diversified. The final investment concept we spoke about was playing the long game and avoiding the tendency to become overly reactive or emotional to market swings. Remember that markets go up and markets come down, but in the long run, they tend to go up. By having a long-term perspective, you can avoid the emotional roller coaster that so many ride during times of market volatility. The short-term pullbacks and dips will be less concerning to you because you know you have time on your side. In fact, with this perspective, you'll likely start to see silver linings in those market dips as they present a buying opportunity and the potential to generate increased returns down the road. In videos 8 and 9, we discussed the practical side of investment accounts and investment options. While these may sound very similar, there's an important difference. An investment account is a vehicle that's used to make and hold your investments. We use the analogy of a shopping cart, where your shopping cart is the investment account and the various investment options are the wide variety of investments that you could place into that shopping cart. You'll recall that there are several different kinds of investment accounts, the most common of which are retirement accounts, health savings accounts, education accounts, and brokerage accounts. The most important characteristic of retirement, health, and education investment accounts is that they're tax advantaged, meaning they're given special tax treatment in order to help you meet your savings objectives. For example, when you contribute and make investments through a 401k, which is an employer-sponsored retirement account, you get to deduct the amount invested from your taxable income. In other words, with a 401k, you're able to defer paying taxes until you withdraw funds in retirement. This tax deferral effectively enables you to accumulate more funds in your 401k, leading up to retirement. In addition, many employers will match your retirement savings up to a certain point, essentially giving you extra money. And this is why, of all of those investment accounts, if your employer offers a matching program, this should be the first account you invest in. After discussing investment accounts, we jumped right into the 4 main asset classes or investment options that people invest in. The first is equities. When you invest in equities, you're buying stock or ownership in a company. If the company performs well and generates a profit, then your investment will perform well. If the company performs poorly, then so will your investment. There are 2 primary ways that an equity investment will generate a return. The first is through an appreciating stock price. When you buy stocks, you'll hopefully be able to sell them later at a higher price. The second way is through dividends or elective cash payments made back to shareholders, usually following strong business performance. The second asset class that we spoke about is bonds. A bond is a financial instrument that is essentially a loan made by an investor to a borrower. The investor will lend the borrower money in exchange for interest payments made at designated periods of time over the life of the bond. Most bonds are issued by either governments or businesses as a way to raise money. Because bonds are essentially debt and debt holders have certain protections in the event of bankruptcy, bonds are generally considered less risky than equities. The third asset class is real estate, which is often thought of as a desired investment because of its appreciation potential, along with its ability to generate cash through rental income. As Mark Twain once said, "Buy land, they aren't making it anymore. Now, while historically accessing real estate as an investment has been more challenging, there are certain platforms and apps and structures that exist today which have opened up more opportunities to make real estate a part of your investment portfolio. The final asset class we spoke about is cash, and some of you probably scratched your head when I first said that. But the reality is that almost anything you do with your money outside of consumer spending could be viewed as an investment. And there are many ways to hold or invest in cash in your investment portfolio. A few examples include money market funds, CDs, or even commercial paper. The downside of investing in cash is that it provides a very low return. The upside is that it's also very low risk and liquid, or essentially accessible. This is why it's a good idea to keep your 6-month emergency fund in a cash account. Well, there you have it, our wrap-up review of the many topics that we've covered in this personal finance course. Congratulations on getting to this point. While these certainly are not all the topics that we could have covered, they are the most critical and most important building blocks that will set the foundation for your future financial successes. By following these principles and strategies, I promise that you'll be able to make significant and immediate progress towards your financial goals. You'll establish a mindset that will catapult you forward, and you'll set yourself on a path to achieving financial freedom and peace of mind. Now, let's be honest. Simply learning about these principles is only the beginning. The real work ahead is putting these principles and concepts into practice so they can actually begin transforming your current and future financial picture. So as you embark on the next journey of implementing what you've learned, I encourage you to use the resources, handouts, and worksheets that have been a part of this course. I also invite you to stay in touch, to reach out to me with any questions you have, and to share how your journey is going. Once you feel comfortable with these principles, you'll find that there are many other topics that we could discuss together. A few of these include how to most efficiently and quickly pay off debt, how to appropriately use credit to your advantage, strategies to make your money go further, how to invest in or start a business, doing a full retirement planning analysis, performing a real estate investment analysis, and many, many more. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed our time together. I certainly have. I also hope that you've learned a lot and that you now feel empowered to take control of your finances and to put yourself on a path to achieving financial freedom and financial peace of mind. I wish you all the very best on your own financial journey going forward, and I'll certainly look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again, everybody.